Let's talk honestly about the expectations for Clemson in the future.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked On Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And if you are an everydayer, you know how we do it here. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday, every single week. Big salute out there to all the everydayers. And thanks for hanging with me. Hopefully you're having a good week so far and a Merry Christmas. And if you're not yet an everydayer, you haven't yet hit that follow or subscribe button, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that button so you never miss another episode. Exclusive Clemson content right here for you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. We have a great show for you today. We're going to kind of talk about, I would say this is more of a mailbag show because I wanted to take a look at some of the comments that had been on the YouTube channel that had been sent over to me on social media and kind of address a lot of the back and forth between the fan base and some of the videos that I've done in the past week or so. Really kind of talking about Clemson's values in segment 3 and why or why not Clemson is falling behind. Segment 2, we'll talk about Clemson being elite and can they continue to do so or will they just keep falling behind? And then really kind of start everything off with what's happening this Saturday and in general with college football overall and the bowl games and frustration even with the college football playoffs. One thing that we can talk honestly about, I think, is just that college football is not, especially in the postseason, is not really where it needs to be. And also college football with the scheduling and how the season works out and when you can and can't do things is really not in a good place either. So we know that we're kind of in this limbo with college football. We love college football. We love our colleges. And in some ways, as fans, I believe we're being exploited because of that loyalty. We're being exploited because we have this, unwavering loyalty to college football or the college. And we're showing support to something that is not really giving us back the same kind of love that we would like or that we have expected in the past. And it's still in a transitional period, transitioning from the university and the staffs getting everything to now the players being a part of that, which they should have always been a part of it, really, in this type of economic society, they should have been a part of it and included, but they weren't. Now they are, but they're still in this limbo of they're being included, but there's not a lot of checks and balances and not a lot of rules that are set in place to stop certain things. And so players are exploiting things, agents are exploiting things, teams and head coaches are still exploiting things. And so right now, college football is not in a great place, and it's starting to be detrimental to the postseason. We've seen it not only in the bowl games. I mean, the bowl games slowly over time got worse and worse. As when I was growing up, I remember a lot of the bowl games you looked forward to, even if they weren't the marquee games. Now, obviously, you wanted to get into the marquee games, but even if they weren't those games, you still kind of looked forward to them and to try to beat that team. And you were probably more often than not going to play. Each team was going to be playing, at full strength or close to it. Now, slowly started to see opt-outs, players getting ready for the NFL, players going and electing surgery. Then with the transfer portal and no contracts being signed, it's all about what can they do for the next year? What can they do in the next season? And how can they prepare themselves for the future? Because right now, the team that they're on is, even though the season's not over with, it is very much the past. And I don't want to dance around it. I do understand the frustration from the fan base about bowl games in general. And even even in the playoffs, we've seen the two group of 5 teams basically get blown out of the game and seem to be not competitive at all. And I think that's just going to get worse as we continue. The college football needs to fix that. They can't just allow some teams that aren't really relevant to be a part of, or can't compete to be a part of the playoffs. If the playoffs is going to be true representation of the best teams in college football, then all of them need to be there. I will also say I can understand where, you want to reward success for the season, but when these other teams are not playing like opponents or similar strength opponents, then having great seasons, being rewarded by getting the playoffs, and then getting blown out by a team that actually has a better roster, I think should be avoided. So it's starting to get a little bit of, again, lack of direction, lack of understanding of how college football should be, at least in the playoffs. And it all kind of revolves around this one idea that I have where I feel as if college football doesn't care, because they're exploiting us in a lot of ways. We're going to watch, if you're an Ole Miss fan, I mean, they packed out that stadium and they pretty much knew they were going to blow out that team, but they packed out that stadium and we watched that game. And so if we don't discourage this type of action by not watching, by not buying the ticket, then they're just going to keep doing it. And maybe that's okay. Maybe we don't really care. Maybe we'd rather just have a blowout and move on to the next round. If that's how we want college football, then we're obviously going to keep buying those tickets. And that's where I think college football fan gets exploited, because we'll just buy the ticket because it's our favorite team. And maybe that's the way all sports are. But eventually I think that loyalty and that good faith runs out, and the fans will demand a better product. Bowl games are definitely feeling more and more irrelevant, and we do need to admit it. And that goes for Clemson too, because it's not a Clemson problem specifically. It is a college football problem. So to kind of label this irrelevant because of Clemson, or this Pinstripe Bowl is irrelevant because of Clemson or Penn State, is to me not fair. Because this is just the way college football is right now. The best players are not using bowl games as rewards anymore. They're using this time in better avenues. This time could be better spent preparing for the draft. Some players, they feel it could be better spent going in the transfer portal. The team that they're currently on is a thing of the past, whether it be because of graduation, whether it be because of NFL draft, or whether it be because of the transfer portal. Also, the team is, as it currently is, a thing of the past because of surgeries. Clemson has had 2 players that are injured that need to be looked at, need to get surgery, and they're ready to move on. And so the bowl games just aren't what they used to be. And I don't blame the players at all on Penn State or Clemson or any other teams. It is rational behavior in the system that allows it. And we have to stop pretending that the bowl season needs to mean more, because I think that's just trying to force the past on the future. Clemson and Penn State are not playing at full strength. Penn State, is also having some issues with their staff because of a lot of what we are allowing, which is these full-on change of staff and personnel mid-season. This game is going to be a lot of backups, it's going to be younger guys, and it's going to be a lot of survival. So when I see in the comments people say, well, Morg, losing to Penn State is going to be devastating to this program, I don't understand where that logic is coming from. And maybe you can explain it to me in the comments. Maybe you can reach out to me on X at the Morgan T Show. But I don't see how that any loss in the bowl game, outside of maybe even the playoff loss, I don't see it could be that devastating for the program, because I think that's missing the context of where we are now in postseason of college football. It doesn't mean that we don't watch these games. It doesn't mean that we don't care, but we have to understand what we are actually watching. And it's not the 2025 Clemson football team playing off against the 2025 Penn State team at full strength. It is a lot of an extra game with branding, with your favorite team, and a lot of kind of last hurrah for a lot of guys, but also some insight into some guys who are hungry to see what they can do in 2026. But it is not going to be a devastating loss one way or another, in my opinion. But I am going to tune in, and I'm going to hope that and cheer for Clemson to beat Penn State. Continuing the discussion in segment 2, we'll talk about Clemson may never be elite again. And is that right or wrong? Right here on Locked On Clemson. Hey, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum shift, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. We've seen it this past weekend. A lot of things are going on. Receiver gets hot, running back gets hot, quarterback gets hot. I mean, look at the comeback from New England to many other teams. Defenses tighten up and momentums flip after a turnover. I know you feel it when you watch an NFL game right now. So jump on the live spreads and money lines as they move instantly. Play your prop bets as the guys heat up. And you can even go after the next touchdown score, the next drive result, totals, and more. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, go visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and now so can you. Before we continue to segment 2, I wanted to give you a quick shout out to all my everydayers out there. If you listen to Locked On Clemson every single day and you want a little more out of the show, that is for you. We've launched the Locked On Clemson Everydayer Club, and the perk I love the most is the ad-free feed. Same show, same breakdowns, same Clemson talk, just you don't get any ads. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever, whatever app you already use, and it just flows straight through. There's also a members-only Discord where everydayers hang out and talk about Clemson football, recruiting, and game reactions. I jump in there too, so it's not just listeners talking into the void to no one. If you want to check it out, head over to lockedonclemson.supercast.com or just tap the link in the show notes. Thanks again for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every single day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. All right, we're going to get back into segment number 2. Speaking of Clemson and a lot of fans being nervous if Clemson is ever going to be elite again. I can understand where the nervousness comes from because, I'm a nervous fan myself. But it is a real conversation to have had, and I think a lot of people are afraid to kind of talk about it because Clemson's kind of in an unknown. They've got a head coach that's one of the best head coaches in college football, but the past couple of years have not been kind to Dabo as like they used to be when he was, dominating the sport and had an electric offense and a really, really shut down defense. It's uncomfortable to say out loud, but there is a lot in the fan base that feel as if Clemson may never make it back to the top of college football. Do you feel that way? Have you felt like Clemson is kind of seen their due and that's ran their course? I can understand that. I mean, I felt as if Clemson, in a sense, is in a small market. There's no Lamborghini of Clemson. There's no Mercedes-Benz of Clemson. There's Chrysler Dodge, right? There's Chevys, Fords, Kia. There are a lot of dealerships around Clemson, but when it comes to luxury brands, when it comes to mega corporations and things that ultimately will help you bring more money into your program, and even a higher alumni base. That's where Clemson, I feel, could struggle in the arms race of college football unless there is a reduction of allowable NIL, which they claim will be. We haven't seen it for sure, but we know that it's NIL plus revenue share now. Now, the revenue share part, Clemson can hang with. The fan base is going to spend money to watch their team. We know that. They're gonna travel, they're gonna show up, and they're gonna spend money. So the revenue share to me has never been a problem, but the extra donations to allow yourself to spend a little bit more has always going to be an issue when you compare Clemson versus other major markets. And that's why I've worried that college football could turn into Formula One or could turn into Major League Baseball, where it is the true haves and have-nots. It is not seen as more competitive across the board like the NFL is. So with the expanded playoff, I will say that is one area that makes it better for teams like Clemson, who maybe seem to be a little bit of a disadvantage as far as market goes. Expanded playoffs allow for more teams than just the best teams to have a chance. You don't have to be the number one team in the country to have a chance. You don't have to be the best team in the SEC or the ACC or, the Big Ten if the playoffs expand. You don't have to be Ohio State or Georgia every single year. And Clemson may have a difficulty doing that. You just have to be good enough to get in and be hot at the right time. And that is doable for Clemson. But the thing is, that's all fine and good as long as you're not also falling behind in your own conference. And it's completely acceptable to say that this past season, Clemson was not the best program in the country, and they were not the best program in the ACC. They had multiple ACC losses, did not get into the championship game, and were very lackluster in a season where they were supposed to be one of the better teams in the conference, not only in the conference, but in the country. So Clemson needs to be the leader in the ACC. There's no question with that. That's always been the standard. Long before NIL, long before the transfer portal, long before expanded playoffs, and long before Dabo Swinney, it was unacceptable to be a head coach at Clemson or to have a football team out on that field that cannot be competitive in the ACC. Losing playoff games, I think that's acceptable for just about any coach because you got there. Losing a semifinal game, yeah, it's acceptable. Losing to the elite program in your conference, probably say is acceptable too. But when you're losing multiple conference games to teams that are not considered elite in your conference, that is unacceptable under any era and under any time and under any coach. And that's where we've been saying some of the things back and forth. We've been arguing back and forth. But the truth is that Dabo is in a situation where he does have to figure it out. And I've mentioned this in shows over the season. I'm curious to see what will happen because it is not often, or in my opinion, happened ever where, at least in this new era, where a coach has been able to fix his own mistake or fix his own fall, if you will. Clemson has been able to salvage the season at the end of the season by winning 4 in a row and getting into a bowl game, beating their rival. And there was a lot of wrongs righted at the end of the season, but it's still a team that has a lot of problems. It's still a roster that has a lot of problems. And it's still a staff that has a lot of problems as well. So to say it out loud, just like we said it out loud with the bowl games being irrelevant now, I'll say it out loud with this team and this program. Foundationally, under Dabo Swinney, it's very solid. But national relevance and conference relevance is a little bit falling behind. Clemson can win another national title. I believe that. But they also have to be competitive in their conference, and that seems like the biggest struggle right now is to get back to that. Winning the ACC consistently is always Clemson's floor. There's no going back. No fan is going to accept what happened in 2025 to be the standard. It's not about looking at the past and trying to hold a high expectation just because of the past or nostalgia or anything like that. This is literally the standard for Clemson, and it has always been. The team has to be competitive in the ACC. The team has to be fighting over at least one other team to get into the ACC championship game. But to be falling behind multiple teams and not look well doing it, that is where the problem goes. Clemson can claim elite culture. That is definitely one of those truths. But also being elite in your conference, that is a non-negotiable. You can't have elite culture and not have be elite in your conference, because that's unacceptable. Clemson fans are patient, and the Clemson board, Graham Neff, seem to be very patient. They talked about this on Dan Patrick's show about how Clemson may or may not be able to get back to the top. But one thing that you can say that is actually an admirable trait in this world of turmoil and just fire your coach at anything is patience of Clemson. But even the patience of Clemson can get tested if the team is consistently not competing in their own conference. You compete in your own conference, you're one of the better teams in your own conference, that gets you into the playoffs, and that will eventually give you a shot to make it through, especially as the playoffs get expanded. It's really all about how you can get hot at the right time and be healthy at the right time. But that regular season and that conference still matters, and it is extremely important for Clemson to be relevant in the future and going forward. All right, hey, segment 3 is coming up. We're going to talk about values and rules, and the statement that I said that maybe rubbed some of the fans or maybe even non-subscribers and non-everydayers the wrong way right here on segment 3. There's nothing like college football season. Tailgates, packed stadiums, marching bands, those moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets used to be the worst part, with long queues, logins, crashing. I can't tell you how many times this happened to me this year. Prices dropping or jumping up right at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I pulled up the Game Time app just to check Clemson games this season, and honestly, I was surprised how fast the app worked. I was surprised how easy it was to click around and find great seats. The app's very simple, and browsing is kind of an interesting thing, and buying just takes a few minutes. My favorite part is being able to see the view from the seat so you know exactly what you're getting. And the zone deals. I mean, I'm telling you, you think they're a gimmick? No, they're not. They're legit. Pick your section and Game Time will pick the seats, and you can save even more. Seeing prices with all the fees up front as well is amazing. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Hey, thank you again for tuning in. Segment 3 here, the last segment of the show, really for me and you, the everydayers, to hang out and talk about some things at the end. I want to just let you know, thank you so much again for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. And every week, Monday through Friday, I've been doing this now since February. I started in February, and now we're almost at the end of the year. And this December, I was looking at the results. Our views are through the roof. It could be the best month of all. The last month of the year is on pace to be the most viewed month, most listened to month of the year. And again, it's not because of me. It's totally because of you. and being willing to support me in this endeavor. As I always like to joke, what the proceeds from this show help me, pay for flight school and to change my career from marketing dude to pilot. So I really appreciate it. Helps me reach my dreams, and hopefully we can enjoy Clemson football and basketball and baseball and softball along the way, and all the other sports as well. But let's get back into it. So let's talk about the portal and Clemson's values and this argument that I kind of started up. Also, a lot of ways just because I have a short that posted up, and the short was part of what I said, but not the whole segment. And so everybody saw exactly what the 30 seconds of the short was, but not really what the full segment was. And I gotta admit, I did it on purpose. All right. So, it is what it is. But now let's talk about it, because this is where I think things get confused the most. The reality is we all know that Clemson in 2025 is just not keeping up. I mean, it's really the thing that we don't want to say, but we're going to say. That's what this whole show has been about. Maybe I should title it that. Things we need to say, but we don't want to say. I don't know if that's too long of a title, but Clemson in a lot of ways is not keeping up. And it's not because they can't get elite talent. They get elite talent. It's not because they don't have the great facilities. They have great facilities. It's not because they don't have amazing fans. They have amazing fans. It's not because they don't play good teams. They play good teams. And it's not because their head coach is not one of the best head coaches ever. They have one in Dabo Swinney. And it's also not because everyone else is cheating like crazy and getting away with it, and Clemson is not, because they're on the moral high ground. I don't believe that every single other team that Clemson lost to and also has not been able to keep up with is cheating constantly, tampering constantly, and that's why Clemson can't win, because Clemson doesn't do any of those things. I don't believe it. Now that can be the narrative. You can try to swing it one way or another, but what I do believe is that Clemson has been riding through a method and a strategy that is not allowing them to be more versatile in this new era of college football. Is Clemson being more strict than they need to be? I believe that. I do. There are rules that are part of the game, and that's the game that you're playing, and there's no need to handicap yourself beyond what the rules are in the game. Again, it would be like the card game, where in the game, you're allowed to steal a card. That's the gameplay. That's what's allowed in the rule book. Or it may not be even a rule book, but it doesn't say you can't do it. And, then going out and saying, well, you know what, I'm going to play this game, but I'm never going to steal a card. And everybody else is. Well, that you may be taking the moral high ground, and this may be very simple and basic, but you may be taking the moral high ground, but you are nerfing yourself, penalizing yourself in a rule that's not part of the game. And I'm not saying that Clemson is blatantly doing that. What I am saying is that the strategy that has been decided up to this point has been to stay away from things that a lot of the other teams are doing. And the fact is that you can't just keep leaning on high school recruits to replenish your roster. You can say that I'm promoting Clemson for tampering. I'm not saying that. I know that should be against the rules, and I know that people are doing that, and it actually is against the rules, but people still do it. If it's against the rules, you don't do it. But what I am saying is that Clemson has to be aggressive. They have to make it known within the ways that they have allowed. If Clemson needs a quarterback, they need to identify it, and they need to go after it. They can't wait and be a slow adapter or fall behind and let everybody else take take their spot. This is a game that they need to win. It's not Clemson's job to fix the broken system, to play the moral high ground when nobody else is. The responsibility for fixing the system is on the commissioners, on the NCAA, on the lawmakers. Until they fix it, I mean, whatever is allowed within the rules of the game or is not explicitly said in the gray area, you have to decide what your standards are. I want Dabo, I want Clemson to be a team of standards. I want all teams to be a team of standards and values. But there's a difference between cheating and competition and keeping up with the competition. And this 2025 team did not feel like the team was keeping up with competition. This 2025 team felt as if their depth has been depleted, felt as if there were starters that did not deserve to be starters, that were not of the caliber that they needed to be. And, you know, to me, if you choose to ignore this need to improve your team with the ways that are allowed and stick to only the way you want to do it, then you are in a lot of ways kind of taking defeat. You may not be saying it out loud. Listen, hate the system. Hate the system, but operate within it. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying cheat in order to win, but I'm saying operate within the rules of the game that have been established. Hate the system, adapt, and don't take some sort of high ground that's not really there. You cannot surrender competitiveness in order to hold some sort of standard that's not really explicitly required. And it may sound dirty to say, but you'll pay the price for it if you don't play the rules of the game. You'll pay the price for it. So Clemson's got to decide. And maybe it's not even that serious. Maybe the seriousness, the thing that's really serious is just an internal struggle with the staff of, is that player really who they are, who I think they are? Because in some ways, what we've seen in the offseason, we've seen it for many years now, there's a lot of bragging about players that end up fizzling out on Saturdays. And if a coach or the head coach believes what they're saying about that player, and that player is not living up to what they're saying publicly, then there is a disconnect there that needs to be addressed as well. So maybe it's not just simply that. Maybe it's just simply going back to the basics and saying, is my player evaluation where it needs to be? Is it matching up with what we are seeing on the field? Maybe it's as simple as that. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to Locked On Clemson. Tomorrow, we'll dive deeper into what it means moving forward for Clemson and what Clemson can do to win this bowl game. And make sure you tune back in with us on the Tuesday show and get ready for your holidays as well. Don't forget, only a few more days left till Christmas. Subscribe and follow to Locked On Clemson so you never miss another episode. You can find me over on X at The Morgan T Show and search Locked On Clemson wherever you listen to podcasts, if you want to listen to it on podcast, or if you're on YouTube, you haven't tried out the YouTube as well. If you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking you what you want, make it easy for them and ask for the Everydayer Club. You get ad-free episodes of the show, access to exclusive Discord servers, so the exclusive Discord server, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted right now over at lockedonclemson.supercast.com. For those of you watching on video, head over to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And for those of you on audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On College football. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.